They said it no.
I thought that two years being worth 4 years. Yeah, because it would have been beautiful. But it just fit perfectly.
Okay.
Dead body.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am Vice Chair. We do have a quorum of 4 people, and so I will now call our meeting to order. First item of business is approval of minutes from September 20th, 2023. All the members can take one. Okay, yeah. You got roll, or do you want me to take it?
I got it. Chair Watson. Absent. Vice Chair Vincent.
Present.
Member Strong.
Present.
Member Chisholm.
Present.
Member Illahans.
Present.
Member Hughes. Absent. Councilmember Russell. Absent. Code Manager Lewis. Absent. And I'm here.
Okay.
We do have a quorum of 4.
We can add that in here, so I just want to pass it. All right, now we'll move to the approval of minutes from September 20th, 2023. All the members had an opportunity to review those. Can I get a motion? Second?
I'll second.
Who was first? Or,
Sonia and Rick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Move. We will now move to public forum. This is an opportunity for the public to address the CEAC. There is an expectation that the presentations will be conducted in a respectful manner. Committee members may ask questions for clarification, but there will not be any dialogue. Please limit presentations to 3 minutes. That'll be timed back here. Please send, and then always send any written documents that you would like submitted to afufro@inglewoodco.gov no later than the October 18th date.
and I have not received any online comments.
Okay. Who's first up for public?
Citizen Underwall.
Yep. I had documents, but I didn't know they had to be submitted in, so I guess they can be your homework. Okay, here's what happened in my neighborhood. September 11th, a dead body was dumped in what is now known as Dead Lady Alley. And the police came, blocked everything off for half a day and kept conversing, all the neighbors.
What was the date?
Huh?
What was the date?
September 11th.
11th, okay.
7 a.m. So it was daylight, broad daylight. Anyway, the police did not get the answer they wanted, as she was not shot there. So, and reading cams confirmed that we were not lying. We did not hear good. The next day, code enforcement hit us and hit us hard. Everybody did not hear the gunshots, got papered. Code violations. I have been harassed since Larry Medina days. He told me I was not allowed to live in that neighborhood because I was the wrong color and my parents were not from Inglewood. They're from Littleton. So anyway, 17 years, all the regime changes, nothing has changed. I keep running into code enforcement officers, give me the tippy toe, the peek around, and they're very startled when they see me standing in the driveway, not letting them in my property. They keep saying, like, I was told to come out and check the property on the corner. I've heard this when the other property on this intersection had weeds that completely hid the fire hydrant. They were not warned. I was. Anyway, so I complained to Dave Lewis and to the city managers, and I was just told that, fine, we'll give you to the weekend. Well, so they got me more angry, and basically paper became enforced up, including a nuisance tree order that requires me to cut down all trees and vegetation all of it. And the only way around it is to hire a licensed arborist, licensed by the city. Arborist is like nutritionist. It's just a made-up title. There is no requirements. Make sure I tried to apply for an arborist license online, and I stopped short of actually paying for the license. All I needed was name, address, phone number. No training, no workman's comp, nothing. That's your licensed arborist. So basically you hire the licensed arborist and he comes out and says, yeah, you're fine, but you have to pay for that. If you don't, they will cut down on your trees and charge you for it. And they take a 25% of the bill for themselves. I had a hearing.
Go ahead and finish your sentence.
Okay, in the hearing, city clerk, Kristen Brown, city clerk, she's also the evidence clerk, and she is also in charge of ballots. Assistant city attorney, Sergio Renteria, and 2 code enforcers, Stacy Kinney and Grace Hancock. They presented evidence of a dead tree, but it wasn't my yard. It's the neighbor's yard by 9 feet. And instead of saying, oops, carrying over, they pivoted and then began claiming I had a lot of dead trees on my property. They're not on my property. The trees are just so big. They're in the center of the block, but they could see the dead branches above their house. I tried to present evidence, pick my own pictures and Google Street View showing that those trees are not on my property. Kristen Brown and Renteria refused to allow me to present the evidence, and the 2 code enforcers perjured themselves, claiming they had seen with their own eyes the trees growing.
Finish in like 5 seconds.
Out of a car that I keep parked in my driveway.
Okay.
And I have.
Any members who, do you have any?
I just would like to ask one question. Probably a yes or no question. Did you request a copy of the tape?
I did not, because it's giving them a blank check. They will charge $25 an hour to research it, and they don't need to come up with one.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other members have questions?
And I'm sorry, it jumped by me real quickly. What was the warrant for? What was the
Nuisance tree. And
nuisance tree?
I have a picture of their code enforcement vehicle parked. They took this picture. I didn't. Of their own code enforcement car parked under the so-called dangerous tree. Here it is. This is the tree that got me cited. That's the property line. And this is not some zigzagging property line. Property line, it runs on an invisible parallel through 5 blocks. So if you had a laser beam, you could stand at Adriatic and shine it all the way to Island.
Where's your house? I'm sorry.
I don't know. My house is behind the street. This is the property. And there is a marker. But only the neighbors know I know where it is. It's not obvious.
Any other members have any questions? You did print documents for us. I'm willing to receive whatever documents you printed. The other members, it's your choice.
Just a point of clarification, you have attempted to talk to code enforcement.
I had a hearing.
That-
And Renteria and Brown shouted me down every time I tried to present evidence that the tree was not on my property. So I pivoted and began pointing to other trees in their photos, but those trees are not on my property either. They're so tall, you can see them all in the front house. And again, it's all on audio tape, me being shouted down, me being denied the opportunity to use Google Street View, which I think is a very objective and,
Sure, consider.
Any other questions from any other members? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. Who's next?
Whitebird. J. That's that right?
Hi, I'm Jan Wypert. I live over Federal and Bellevue, and I saw something on the agenda I just wanted to address. You were talking about putting in the charges for reinspection, that kind of thing. And I came to a meeting a few months ago on that. And I want to make some comments because I feel like government is supposed to be for the people that live here. That doesn't mean a free ride, but it means for the people that live here. So when somebody goes out and says there's a problem, and then they say, well, I've taken care of what I think it is, come back out, and then they're supposed to be charged for that reinspection. That's not okay, guys. Make your wording so that it supports our community. Even little children get, coached along in life. Most people don't end up in front of code enforcement, repetitively. So make your wording so it's, okay, you get a notice, then we're going to be out in what it is, 10 days or 2 weeks, are going to reinspect. No charge for that, but we'll coach you if you can be there at the reinforcement. Then if it's not taken care of, then charge for at this point, it would be the third appearance. Charge for that one and go ahead and charge your $50. And you can make it incremental. But I mean, this is silly that like this woman is taking care of this. Last year, I was seeing evidence that people were being called to task by code enforcement for a few sprigs of grass or things that weren't on their property again, or some things that whoever it was thought were weeds that weren't. And I think, are you here for your own grandizement, or are you here to help our city be better? I think, I'm so concerned about our city, and I just keep seeing government run rampant. And let's go get them. Let's go get them. Whoever it is, let's go get them instead of let's teach people to do it right. And I'm not saying people don't screw up. I know I had something on my block where the people had let the weeds go like crazy. They had a tree fall down. They had several problems with it. But let's help people out, especially when there are catastrophes and wind blows trees over and takes things up. Let's work with people. Let's not try and send them to the bankruptcy court. That's not what we should be doing as government. And you have the power to do it, to help people get coached. And you can charge money, but let's do it on the third time you have to come out, not the first and second. Was it only 3 minutes?
It's 3 minutes,
Okay,
ma'am.
it was 4. Okay, I'll be quiet. Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for what you're doing.
Any questions from any of the members? Can I ask a technical question?
Yes.
I believe you're talking about the current ordinance change that we have on the agenda for this evening. I would ask for a technical question about on section 2 for the reinspection fee, the amount established. It says for each inspection in excess of 2, meaning that the fee would not come into place until inspection 3. Would that be a proper reading?
That's correct.
Does that?
Okay. There was one more thing that and I know I'm going over, that I meant to say is that it shouldn't go year after year after year. It should be for 12 consecutive months. It shouldn't be, let's keep building this up. So that was the other point.
And can I ask a question? So are you suggesting that it should be only specific also, like if you get 2 notifications for weeds, but you get another notification for something else, are you wanting those to all be lumped together or just for one item?
They should be separate. I mean, look at our elderly, and I'm getting up there maybe, but weeds are different than snow. Weeds are different than snow. Be kind to our citizens. Doesn't mean don't let them get a free ride, but be kind.
Thank you for your time.
Then we'll add another, Councilmember Russell. It does state in excess of 2 pursuant to each notice of violation issued. So for every separate violation, if there's one violation issued with 3 issues on it, that one notice, your third inspection would be feed. If you get a whole different notice down the road, that would be your third inspection off that notice would be feed.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Next, C. Dickerson.
Oh, okay. Please table the reinspection fee ordinance for more evidence and put it on the next meeting. Code enforcement is not currently following the requirements of 15-3-2, which requires initially documentation by photos, videos, and other documentation before a 7-day informal notice or the 14-day posting notice of violation. Both are warnings, and the 14-day notice has to contain the option of administrative appeal hearing before any further enforcement can take place. If it goes to administrative appeal, code enforcement has to reinvestigate to determine if a violation is still ongoing and prove its case at the hearing. There's 2 right there. 3 when it goes to a 14-day notice. If it goes to a summons and complaint and a court hearing, code enforcement has to prove the violation is still ongoing at the time of the court action. That is at least 3 inspections required before any enforcement, fine, or fees can be imposed. That's according to the current code. The proposed code is contradictory in that more than 2 inspections can result in a fee of $55 and can result after a single notice of violation. A notice of violation cannot be enforced as the 14-day notice is a warning enforceable and only after an administrative appeal and or a summons and complaint and a guilty verdict by the court. There is no evidence that has been presented that show multiple, more than 3 inspections are required on any one noted violation, or that fees for multiple inspections imposed by court actions would be recoverable. There should be an examination of Title 15 on a number of issues, but a reinspection fee is not necessary or desirable, especially when code enforcement is not following Title 15 process and enforcement is selective and discriminatory and faulty in many cases. There's a problem with the code itself, the proposed code. It says, it lists a whole bunch of codes that are not the responsibility of code enforcement. PIN is not listed in Title 6 as something that code enforcement can do, and yet it's listed in this proposed revision. Title 7, code enforcement only has authority over Chapter 1, nothing else. And the chief building official has primary responsibility over Title 5, Chapter 7, and Titles 8, 9, and 16. Code enforcement is no more than an agent for service of process
That is 3
for
minutes.
those titles.
Any questions from the members? Seeing none, thank you for your time.
I'm here tonight just to follow up to see what's happening with the weeds. I didn't have a chance to read the proposed changes. And I certainly empathize with, I'll speak up, see, I certainly empathize with people and what they're saying about the notifications. I think if people I think we deal with the chronic offenders. I don't know that it's the one time. I think it's, I just know my own alley, you know, it's over and over and people just don't take care of their property. You know, it's an eyesore. You know, I think it's a safety thing, it's a fire thing. I think there's a lot of reasons that we have weed control. It's not just to penalize people. I do also think that there should be some alternatives to people who are indigent, infirmed, whatever the situation is, so that they have an option and they can get some help if they can't afford it and they can't take care of it. But, you know, there's a lot of chronic offenders out there. So that's it. Oh, and I have another issue. I know Dave isn't here, and I did read the code about junk cars that are in property. I just wonder if we can talk about that. I think in a 10-block radius, there's probably over 30 junk cars in my neighborhood. And just, you know, and they obviously haven't been moved for a really long time. So that's just another thing.
Are these on the street or are they on?
No, they're not on the street. They're on property.
Actually on the property,
Yeah.
on the front.
Well, some of them you can see from the front, you know, it's like the driveway and they're in the driveway. Most of them are visible. Then some of them are in the alley. You can see them in the alley. Just wondering what you do about it. It's such an eyesore.
Any questions from members?
Have a comment. They can, the way the laws are written, as long as the cars are not parked on the grass, they can have as many cars as they want. And
Some of them are.
so they either need to be on gravel or on concrete or on pavers.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, this isn't a time for debate. You're only allowed to ask questions for clarification. And so if there are no other questions,
Just ask what the general area where you live.
Yes, I live at Grant, on Grant between Amherst and Yale.
All right.
I walk my dogs. So I'm pretty familiar with what, you know, when it's hot, I walk them in the alley and not on the pavement.
Thank you.
any other questions from members? Seeing none, thank you. That's it. All right, that ends public forum time. Moving on to item number 4.
Dave's not here, but he did want me to pass on for significant events, 4945 South Delaware Street, which is the property that was involved with the pipe bombs, meth contamination, all that. That property has been sold now twice. The new owners of that are working through the process with building department of the fire marshal's office to get the meth cleaned up by a state licensed organization, as well as get the property fully in compliance. Their plan is to gut the property completely and rebuild the inside and sell it off as an investment property. So that property has been released from all city control back to the new owners, and they are working in compliance with the other state departments of what they need to do to get that uncondemned and start the rebuilding process.
Any questions? Item number 5, a report from our councilman, member Russell.
Actually, things have been fairly busy on city council. Actually, we missed one study session after the recall, and then there's been a lot of things moving forward. So, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I will ask on Monday night, I did a council request, which hopefully I will be able to share with this committee. I asked, some of it would involve this committee for the abatement process by each department that does nuisance abatements in the city. And then how many abatements we currently have on the record and how many liens the city holds on properties across the city. And I think perhaps some of that information might be of interest to this committee. So other than that, right now, part of the reason I'm so busy and part of the reason I was late is because I'm campaigning and So I've just been really busy, but thank you for all you're doing. And hopefully by the next time we meet, I will have the answer to that council request and can share it with you all.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for your report. Item number 6, communications subcommittee stuff. We need to nomination for 2 members to the subcommittee. What subcommittee are we talking about, AJ?
The communication subcommittee.
Oh, we already had 2 people on there.
We did, however, the one is no longer with the board and the other one has been moved to the chair and he's asked to have that reassigned. So we have current openings for 2. At last meeting, member Hughes did nominate herself, if the board wants to consider that as one nomination, since she cannot be here.
To consider member Hughes to be one of those individuals. Is anybody else interested in being the other person on that subcommittee? I'm swamped, so I can't take on more work right now. I apologize for that.
I won't do it for other reasons, possibly at this point.
Yeah. I mean, we could also, we're missing our chair and that member. That member might want to speak. We could table this until our next meeting.
Let's do that.
Okay. So let's table item 6A to our November meeting. Item B under 6, code fact sheet. Okay. Something that's getting worked on, don't. Yeah.
No, the fact sheet was going to be a spinoff of the priorities of what the board wanted to pass out and maybe back and other information to the community. So if that's something we need to table till we get those board members in place, but last meeting you did want to talk about that.
I think because the 2 things are tied in. Okay, yeah, I see it on this fact sheet. We consensus, should we table this as well? Or do we want to talk about the fact sheet?
We're missing 2 sets here.
Yeah.
And I tend to think that we need to have a full group together to make a move forward.
So what is a quorum for this group?
4.
It's 4.
So we have a quorum.
Yeah.
My understanding was that the fact sheet was a good idea. Everybody seemed to have a consensus around it. So my thought was that would fall into the bailiwick of the subcommittee.
So we need to put that in place and then. Okay. And so then the review of the weed posting process is also tabled for the November meeting.
And that's when Code Manager Lewis will be able to talk about it, provide more details.
Okay.
And that.
Item 7, unfinished business. Reevaluating needs for the change of the Title 6, Chapter 5, Section 652 reinspection fee. My sense is without our chair and a member and also being down 1 member, I'd like to table this one more time. Just so that we can get the full view of all of our members. If we're not going to talk about fact sheets, we shouldn't be sending our recommendations to the council, I think, if our other members set up.
I concur. I would like just clarification to make sure I'm getting my head around this properly. My understanding of it in this form, and AJ, you might chime in on this, is this is more for the habitual offender, the person who continually keeps requiring more inspections. So my understanding is that it does require 3 strikes you're out. It's not the first time. You're not going to get a summons or written up. There is opportunity for that citizen to take action, talk to code enforcement, respond in kind. And so again, my understanding, am I reading it right, that it's 1, 2, 3, and then at the third or after the third reinspection, the $55 fee would be instituted.
Correct. This is for any city inspector. So this ordinance isn't only for code. This is for building inspectors, for utility inspectors. It's for every inspector in the city. The fire marshal office already has this written into their fire code. So the fire marshal's office is already charging this. This is to bring all the other city inspectors, not only code enforcement, up to that same level. But yes, it's not for those properties that they get a notice, it gets cleaned up in compliance. They get another notice, it gets cleaned up in compliance. It's not for that. That's for the properties that remain out of compliance that require those multiple follow-ups of out of compliance.
Thank you.
AJ, are we, from what I'm hearing you say, does that mean that we are, this policy goes in place and it then applies to other city inspectors outside of the purview of CEAC?
Correct.
Okay, so we're determining something that's playing out in other realms besides just this committee.
Correct. Yes, this committee will request to review it, but it will be for other groups that the committee doesn't oversee.
Are there any? So we'd be making a recommendation. Are there any other groups like ours, commissions or advisory groups that would also weigh in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question was kind of along the same line. So if this committee weighs in, is it possible it would only impact the code enforcement section of the ordinance? Meaning, like, if they make a recommendation not to do it, then could the other departments go ahead and do it?
How it's written in the section it's in, for the city attorney, it has to be an all or none. So it would affect all city inspectors if it's approved or unapproved. But the city attorney did request this board to review it.
Great, thank you.
Question then, I guess, and then I didn't realize the breadth of this. Is there anyone else who should provide input from any other areas in terms of what the effect would be for those? I mean, is this a consensus among inspectors that this needs to be done throughout for every group? I know we've heard from Dave. Dave is very much behind this. He sees the reason behind it. But are other inspectors on board with this too?
Yes. Like I said before, it's all coming down from the fire marshal's office. We have it written into their fire code, and they've been doing it, I want to say, for a year or 2 years now that they've been charging, and that's passed out through the city. And so our building inspectors, our utility inspectors, code enforcement have all requested through the city attorney for a code to be written, so that can be charged the same across the city. So all departments are behind it before city attorney drafted it and requested this group to review.
Can those requests be shared with us?
Ask.
Just so that we see that all of the other, or these other inspectors want that and can.
Honestly, don't know if that's available since this is going on over a year. So I'm not sure what we'll have. But I do know there's been buy-in from community development, from the building department, from utilities on all this before.
I'm just a little more concerned. Again, I thought it was just for CEAC. I thought it was just for code enforcement. Another county in Colorado, where the inspectors, the building inspector, the electrical, et cetera, are accused of dragging their feet so that the homeowner or the person who's trying to get the electrical upgrade or the sewer fix, they're calling the inspector, and the inspector is not as responsive as they want to be. So I mean, it's like a mirror image problem where the citizen is saying, I'm trying to comply, I'm trying to work with you, but your inspector can't get out here for 3 weeks or whatever. And then, you know, the suspicion is, hey, they're dragging their feet so they can find me. So that would be a concern that I would not want to have in Englewood, that there would be some accountability. That if the citizen was trying to do right, trying to comply, that the respective agencies would follow suit. I don't know what goes on with electrical inspections or sewer or water or any of the building inspections you're talking about. So I'm a little uncomfortable weighing in on that territory because I don't know what's going on in the territory.
And I know part of the problem, not necessarily a code issue, but it has been brought up by building and fire marshal, like the electrical, the plumbing and that. They'll go into these construction projects and they're being used as basically an expert. So they'll go in on a Monday, they'll do their inspection, say this, and this are all in violation. Then they'll be asked to come back out on Wednesday. Well, we fixed these, but what do you think about this section? So those inspectors are being pulled to do the job of what the contractor that should be paying a professional to actually review the plans and make sure everything's up to code. They're actually using the inspectors. So that was a big issue with the fire marshals. So that's why they started their inspection fees because they were being abused in that process. And so that's where a lot of this from their side is coming from as well.
We had one experience with Englewood. We had a sewer problem. They were Johnny on the spot. They were great. I mean, they were like there. So go ahead. Sir. So that's all.
Any other questions from members? Do you still wish to table?
I
Get
more than ever.
Okay. All right. And then section 7B. I think that's just more of the priorities stuff that's on this back page. I got the page. The last page, the priority list. That would still go along with the I think the work of the subcommittee. If there are no comments from the members on that. New business, A is the e-bike safety and use in city parks and trails. Mike, were you working on that?
Yeah, I sent some guidelines about a month ago. They were fairly generic coming from the federal level. And I didn't know, like I said, I shot it in, AJ received it. I didn't know if those were going to be shared with the group or whatever. I think they're a good start. I don't know what our goal is. That's right. And you had thoughts too.
Yes, I'm a member of Bicycle Colorado as well. And they're an advocacy and a lobbying group for bicycle safety. So if there's any, they're very good at establishing a lot of guidelines and doing recommendations for governments. And so it's a.
Should we request them to weigh in on this? Should they make recommendations?
Yeah, they can. And my husband's a member and and they can send somebody to speak on it if you would wish, or we can make some contacts.
I wouldn't mind having them come to one of our meetings, educate us or make recommendations to us.
Is there anything working at that out of your office right now or anything else?
So looking at the last meeting and talking with parks, there is a new state law that should be rolling out within the next 6 months on e-bikes. I don't know what that is, but there are going to be state laws in reference to speed limits, what they can do, sort of what came out with like the low powered scooters several years ago when those were first out. But we were last meeting when we talked about this. I believe this meeting we were going to see if someone would draft a letter to council to request that this is an issue that may be coming up in the city and request council to dictate who looks at e-bikes, if it's going to be this committee, if it's going to be Parks and Rec, as if it's going to be a collaboration. That's what you guys requested last meeting to address at this meeting, of who would be drafting a letter and what that would entail to council of how we'd address this movement.
You're probably the most competent member to draw that letter. I would be honest about that. We see your connectedness to,
I would welcome any recommendations from any group that has a dog in this fight.
and it probably wouldn't be wise to do anything before any state laws come out because we wouldn't want to violate any of those anyway.
You can do whatever you want, as long as it's not primary authority of the state,
Thank
like
you.
credentialing of police.
There may, I agree. I think we need to take a look at the state law first. Find out what the parameters are. Home rule says we can write our own rule. When you get to the edge of Englewood, you change. So we can do that. Whether we need to or want to, that's, I think, the next step in this is to see where that's heading. So maybe the letter gets written post seeing the state having a discussion.
Yeah, it's a draft. Thank you. Item number 9, members' choice. Any committee members have anything they would like to share?
I'd like to maybe take a moment to, and I wish that Dave were here. In my campaigning, I ended up going to a house of a similar situation where there were trees. And this was an unusual situation because the house was vacant and it had not been lived in for a couple of years. And there was this house had a dead tree that literally extended over both properties, one on one side, one on the other. And one of the things that I understand is that it is the response, if it's hanging over your property, you have the right to cut that section down because it puts your property at risk. That's an expensive process. That's a step that, it's kind of a gray area in my mind. But when I took this to Code Manager Lewis, he said they were already actively working on that situation. And I was told today or yesterday by Dave that they have now taken the action to be able to cut that tree down from that property, even though they haven't been able to, I guess, reach the actual property. So they've been able to make some movement on that. And I congratulate Dave for persevering on that behalf of both neighbors on both sides who were worried that that tree was going to literally damage their house if it, for some reason it fell. So just for the record.
So is that the tree on Bannock?
Anyone remembers?
Just a comment, what I've heard at these meetings from citizens is a concern about the $55 fee on weeds in particular. When I'm out talking to people on the street, I'm getting a preponderance on the other side of that argument, which is, why doesn't code enforcement crack down on weeds more? It's just interesting, how diverse different people's opinions are. But I've got substantially, I think a significant amount of people who are saying, we need to do more. We need to clean up these albums. We need to hold people accountable. So it's just a balance.
Thank you. Anybody, any other members? Have any other topics we want to add to future meetings? We already have a good number.
Will we talk about e-bikes at the next meeting? Can we have?
I think we can have a draft letter and maybe,
Great.
just maybe if we have a sense of what the state might be hashing out, it might be good. Sure, we can write our own stuff, but it's also smart to see what the experts at the state are sort of thinking about as we think about implementing or making recommendations to the council. Sure. All right, seeing nothing else, make a motion. Our next meeting will be November 15th at this location at 6 p.m. Motion to adjourn. Second. Right, we are adjourned.
Is that like a speed director for you guys?
It's happened when you put second chair in charge. We get running. Yeah.
He's trying to call.
Wow. Did anybody know?
44 minutes. Is that,
That was pretty good.
that fair?